I love the Friday the 13th series. I mean, if you can't tell, I'm a fan. I've reviewed the first 8 movies, the ones that matter, and I really, even though some of them aren't the best, I still love each and every one of them for what they are and what they tried to do. That's what you have to do with a lot of these horror franchises. That being said, Jason X is another animal altogether. If you ever wanted to see Jason Voorhees in space, all I can think of is the Muppet Show and Pigs in Space. And then translate that to this guy, behind me here, who's big scary. But anyway, let's talk about Jason X and why the space slasher doesn't work, and in this particular case didn't work. Article by ScreenRant.com. Monkeys, roll the footage.
Yeah, that works.
I like
all right,
that a lot.
okay. All right, moving on.
Hey, what about Tula?
Here we are, ScreenRant.com. Jason X proved that space set slashers never work. I know there's probably some arguments to be made out there, but when making those arguments, you really have to think about, is the movie that you're, putting into that category, is it actually a slasher by definition? But let's talk about this article and not get bogged down in semantics, shall we?
Yo, man, it's cool. It's cool, man. It's cool.
Jason X wasn't the first movie to send a slasher to space, but the Friday the 13th sequel was a case study in why this gambit consistently fails. Although Friday the 13th sequel Jason X was not the first time a slasher villain showed up in space, the maligned franchise outing poignantly underlines why interstellar slasher sequels are never well received. In recent years, Jason X has undergone something of a critical revival and garnered a cult following thanks to the Friday the 13th sequel's unique setting and zany characters. Articles praising the movie have also pointed to its goofy sense of humor, memorable deaths, and meta jokes as some of Jason X's redeeming features in contemporary culture. And yeah, if you look at those things and you compartmentalize them, you can have some fond memories of that. There's movies that other people think are garbage that I like, or they may not look at them in as high regard as me, and a lot of this boils down to personal opinion. That's fine. Personal opinions are fine, obviously, as long as you don't try to force them on somebody else. Now, through debate, discussion, which is what we used to be able to do with these genres, these properties, these movies, these shows, these comics, these figures, is sit down with our friends and talk about them and say, oh, this is why Freddy would be Jason, or you know what I mean? And we've lost the ability to do that because social media grants that anonymity to people to allow them to lash out. Now, I love talking about horror movies in this series in general, and I had a big debate months ago with Justin Proper and Fanzine. We were talking about, is Jason a human? What is he exactly? He's not a zombie. What is he? I believe Jason is a spirit of vengeance, an incarnation of a physical incarnation of the spirit of vengeance. Almost an avatar for vengeance, as it were. But that notwithstanding, let's get back into the article. Even articles arguing that Jason X is secretly the most underrated Friday the 13th movie make sure to stress that the space set sequel is in no way scary. This is a strange yet necessary clarification in the Friday the 13th series has always been a slasher franchise first and foremost. However, like other space set slasher sequels, Jason X conceded early on that the movie would never be authentically scary and suspenseful, and there's a reason for that. Like the earlier Leprechaun in Space and Hellraiser Bloodline before it, Jason X failed to scare viewers and fell flat for many critics because the sequel didn't even try to create much in the way of genuine fear. The reason behind this creative choice is that the sci-fi horror aesthetic of slashers in space inevitably harks back to movies like Alien, the underrated Ryan Reynolds horror Life, or Pitch Black. As a result, a conventional masked killer is not as scary as the imagined horrors of space. The failure of 2007's Sunshine is a further testament to this phenomena, which could also explain why Pandorum, which initially seems to be a monster movie but later on turns to be a killer in space horror, flopped at the box office in 2009. While Leprechaun's villain and Hellraiser's Pinhead are not identical to the inevitable tide of murder that is Jason Voorhees, they both ran into the same problem as Jason X's version of the Friday the 13th menace. Namely, the Leprechaun, Jason, and Pinhead were all scarier on Earth than they were in space. Each of these slasher villains paling in comparison to the existential dread that the vast expanse of space engenders. And that's right, I mean, think about it. Being shot out into the void of space is more terrifying than dying at the hands of a, unstoppable force of nature like Jason Voorhees. It's much scarier. In contrast, on Earth, Jason had Camp Crystal Lake to himself. The Leprechaun could wreak havoc anywhere from a remote farm to the inner city. In Pinhead, it was able to appear anywhere that a character was foolish enough to open the Lament configuration. On Earth, all of these slasher villains are clearly the gruesome stars of their stories. Whereas once they show up in space, any standard slasher sequel struggles to take advantage of this new setting without involving cosmic scale horrors, rendering these villains comparatively weak by comparison. In this way, bringing space into the otherwise highly successful Friday the 13th franchise was always going to outshine a villain who's essentially still only a man, albeit a supernaturally strong one, resulting in Jason X being a critical flop upon release. I look at it like this. The Thing was a terrifying movie on Earth. Would The Thing have been as terrifying in space? I don't know. I'm not a huge expert on the lore and mythos of The Thing. I haven't seen it in so long. But it seems as though the environmental terror added to the suspense because of it being set in such a remote location that really added that isolation that instills fear. Space is vast. It's very, very vast, beyond our comprehension levels. So, yeah, putting somebody who can cut your head off against that, I'd rather have my head cut off and have it ending quickly. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that space, and I've never seen Hellraiser Bloodline. I quit watching the Hellraiser franchise after a certain point, and at this point I really don't like to recognize anything other than the first two movies. I mean, they're there, I do acknowledge their existence, but not my favorite thing, and I haven't watched any of them in so long. So this movie, Jason, in being my favorite horror franchise, Friday the 13th, I did not like this step personally. I didn't like seeing Jason go into space. Jason Goes to Manhattan was one thing if they would have featured more of Manhattan, New York in the movie. You only got the last 20 minutes? But that was only due to budgetary constraints. So the space thing, think about how they could have redirected the budget for that into making another genuinely terrifying Camp Crystal Lake type setting for Friday the 13th. Even if they wanted to kind of move it around again into the surrounding area, not necessarily as far away as Manhattan, but being as this was set in New Jersey, there's that element of it as well. So yeah, there's a lot of other things they could have done rather than go into space. But now it's your turn. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do all the YouTube things, not just for me, but your other favorite YouTubers as well, as we truly appreciate that as small creators helping us combat YouTube's algorithm, and, they favor larger corporate-sponsored channels. So until the next time, I'm Etep Okuin of The Place to Be Reviews. I've been here with all of you, so if I don't see you, have a great day, a pleasant tomorrow. I'll catch you on the next one. Oh, yeah, I almost forgot to tell you. Do you want to send us stuff? Because this is how you send us stuff. We have a P.O. Box now. That's right. P.O. Box 924, Prudenville, Michigan 48657. If you have anything you'd like to send in to The Place to Be Reviews, that's where it goes, and that's where your packages will be coming from as well when I ship things out to you, my Kazooians. I could do this all.
It's better to burn out than to fade away.